Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Red Donkey Projections. I'm Lucas, and unfortunately Eric couldn't make it again, but we'll see him again soon. Today, I'll be taking a look at the 2024 Senate election in Michigan. I'm going to do a quick preview of the race and some new developments that we saw happen. This election has gotten very interesting recently, ever since the retirement of Debbie Stabenow, the longtime incumbent in this seat. So we're going to take a look at what these implications might be. And with that being said, let's get right into it. So as I mentioned earlier, Debbie Stabenow has been in this seat for a very, very long time, and it caught a lot of people by surprise that she was retiring. A lot of people did expect her to run again for re-election, and people were really shocked. I remember that day in early January when she said that she would not be running again. This has created an open vacuum for a lot of people to try to run, and we're going to take a look at what the new interesting development was here. So recently, earlier this week, Elissa Slotkin, a representative from Michigan, announced that she was running for Senate in this state. She actually is a relatively new member of Congress. She got elected in 2018, so this is her fifth year in Congress now. But it's no surprise that she is going to be running. A lot of representatives do tend to want to run for higher office, in this case being the Senate. The interesting part about this, however, and something that I think a lot of people have noticed, is the fact that she was able to clear a lot of the main challengers she might face in a Democratic primary. For example, we can look at this long list here. Many different representatives and state office holders were expected to at least give this a shot in running. For example, Haley Stevens was talked about. The Attorney General Dana Nessel was talked about. Mallory McMorrow was also talked about a lot about potentially running. Andy Levin, Dan Kildee, and Garland Gilchrist were all candidates that people mentioned about possibly seeking the Senate seat. However, it looks like Elissa Slotkin was really able to clear the field from any of her other opponents. The only big names that we're still waiting on are Debbie Dingell, who is a longtime representative from the state, and Jocelyn Benson, the Michigan Secretary of State, who still hasn't decided. And the other one is Brenda Lawrence, who I believe may run because she did say that if another African American didn't run, she would try to run for the Senate seat. So that's really all the opposition that Slotkin is facing. And this is interesting because oftentimes when we see an open Senate seat, or honestly any open seat, there's usually a huge primary to try to fill that open seat. In this case, it looks like this was cleared pretty cleanly by Elissa Slotkin. So that's looking to be a pretty interesting thing here. Now, we're going to quickly look at the Republican side, and then we're going to discuss Elissa Slotkin a little bit more in detail. So the other key distinction that we have to notice here is that the Democrats have a very good bench in terms of candidate quality in the state of Michigan. A lot of their candidates are very well known if they were to run, and they would probably perform pretty well in a statewide election. On the other side, the Republicans really don't seem to have a great bench going on right now. Not many representatives seem very interested, and not many of them are actually really good candidates to run. Peter Mayer has been discussed as being one of the better candidates. The problem with that is it's going to be difficult for him to win a primary in the state. Bill Hutzienga also isn't really a great candidate, neither is Lisa McClain. John James was talked about, but he recently announced that he would not run. Fred Upton's also been talked about as being a pretty decent candidate if he were to run, but I also think that people don't believe he would win a primary in the state. So that's something to keep an eye out, is the fact that Democrats do much better from a candidate perspective compared to Republicans. The other key thing or key theory that could possibly explain why the Democrats have cleared the field so much is because of the fact that there are many races, and I'll show this on a map later, that Democrats do need to defend that are currently leaning towards Republicans in the country right now. We'll take a look at this later, but essentially, I think it's possible that the reason why they're trying to avoid a competitive primary here is they want to use the money elsewhere in more competitive elections against Republican candidates. So let's just take a look at Elissa Slotkin in general and why she might be a pretty good candidate for Democrats here. So Elissa Slotkin had won the Michigan election for Congress, for the House of Representatives, excuse me, by a fairly decent margin. This is a 5-point margin, bigger than a 5-point margin. And she also won by pretty large margins in the past, too. She represents a very competitive swing district that recently flipped in 2018. And if you look at the PVI that 538 gives, I know it's not great, the PVIs that they've given for the partisan leans, but they also show that this is a fairly competitive district. It's currently an R+4 district, and in the past it was even tougher for Elissa Slotkin at R+6. And the fact that she's able to overperform this well does show that she is a pretty strong candidate. Now, if we take a look at Split Ticket, this was from credits to Split Ticket. They have a map that shows the win above replacement metric. It basically measures how much a candidate over or underperformed a certain state's a certain area, area's fundamentals. And taking a look at this, it's clear that Elissa Slotkin is a pretty strong candidate here as well. She was able to overperform her fundamentals by 2.8% here. And the other candidates I've been discussing that have a possible chance of running here, such as Bill Hutsienga, did overperform also by a little bit. But it does seem to be that Elissa Slotkin is a fairly strong candidate compared to the rest of them. And this is why Republicans might be a little concerned about trying to win back the seat. It's the fact that they don't have a great bench here. John James actually underperformed by 3 points, obviously, although he's not going to be running for the Senate seat, though. So this is going to be very interesting to watch, is can Republicans find a candidate to fit the Senate seat here? But again, we should note that 2022 did have a very big blue wave here in Michigan, given how much Governor Gretchen Whitmer overperformed her numbers, as well as how each of these members of Congress overperformed theirs as well. So if we take a look at the Senate map, I've tried to lay out most, if not all, of the competitive states that Democrats have to defend here. Michigan is going to be very central because it's one of those states that's going to actually be safer. If Democrats lose Michigan on election day in 2024, that could spell big trouble for their majority, because they're already, I missed West Virginia. They're already facing a very tough uphill climb in Montana, Ohio, and West Virginia. That already caused them to lose the majority. If they lose Michigan too, they're down in the majority by quite a bit. That's going to be quite a few pickups for Republicans in the country right now in the Senate. So Michigan's going to be key for them to keeping the Senate and to ensure that they at least have some votes on their side. So Michigan's definitely going to be a state to watch that many people didn't think it was going to be a state to watch, because we all thought that Debbie Stabenow was running again. But now that that's not the case, everyone's going to be watching and seeing what could happen in this election. But for now, I do predict that Democrats will hold on to the seat, at least at a lean Democratic margin for now. This could be adjusted in the future if anything changes, but for now, we're thinking a lean D projection. And with that being said, that's the end of the video for today. Thank you all so much for watching. If you like this episode, please hit the like button. If you like our content, please subscribe. And we'll see you in our next episode very soon. See ya.